Good morning to all of you. Welcome to the second day of the 1 week online workshop Cellular Automata and Secure Hardware Design. Today's talks mainly cover the reversibility of cellular automata. Today our first speaker is Dr. Kamalika Bhattacharjee. Dr. Bhattacharjee is an assistant professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli. She received her BTech in Information Technology from Government College of Engineering and Textile Technology, Sirampur in 2011 and Master of Engineering also in Information Technology from Indian Institute of Engineering Science and Technology IIST Shibpur in 2013. She was the college topper in her BTech and gold medalist in her Master of Engineering. She completed her PhD from her alma mater IIST Shibpur in 2019 as recipient of Inspire Fellowship from Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Her research interests include cellular automata, randomness and algorithmic complexity theory. Today, Dr. Bhattacharjee will give a talk on reversibility, semi-reversibility and reachability tree. Over to you, Dr. Bhattacharjee.
Thank you, Sukanadi. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. It feels really strange to be introduced like this because just 2 years back I was a student at the IIST Myanmar method, and obviously it feels great also to come back in some form in a different role. Okay, so yeah, back to business. So, uh, can I share?
Yeah, yes.
I want to thank Professor Shukanta Das, my mentor and guide, for giving this wonderful opportunity to me for presenting this work. So, yeah, and thank you all. Okay, so this talk is reversibility, semi-reversibility, and reachability tree. Last day, Professor Kari has talked about reversibility in general, so we will be just continuing from that part. Sometime I'll be referring to his class also. So, what is reversibility? This is a customary problem in both physics and mathematics. In physics, you can think of that it is a system where there is no loss of information during the evolution. That means entropy will be constant. Now, reversibility means it is time reversible. That means if the process runs back in time, it will return to the initial condition without losing any of its properties. That means we are allowing backward or reverse direction movement. There are several examples in nature, in some physical properties of nature as well as in microscopic system which are reversible system. For example, we can look at the planetary motions in orbits around any just like our, maybe you can think of our solar system as well. So that you can think of as a reversible system. Similarly, in a microscopic world, you can think of the movement of electron around nucleus, which is an example of a reversible system. Then why we study reversibility in cellular automata? As from the previous session itself, from first day session itself, we have understood probably that cellular automata can be thought about a microscopic model of the complex world. So whatever will be studying on cellular automata, that can be a simplified version of what will be happening to the real world. So we can guess we can guess about the characteristics and properties by studying reversibility of cellular automata. In case of a CA is reversible if every configuration of it has exactly one predecessor. That means the global transition function G is bijective. This thing has already been discussed by Professor Kari also. So if we think about G as bijective, that means we can start evaluating from one configuration X And after some time steps, we will be getting back to that configuration. Now, from the corollary of Fedeline's theorem, we know that not only this G is bijective, there exists another inverse function of G, which is also a cellular operator. So there exists another CA which can traverse back from X to X exactly following the reverse path. So that is the beauty of reversible system. But how do we understand that whether a system, whether a CA is reversible or not? We are talking about G here. So we'll look into that. So what is its implication? Its implication is there is no loss of information. We can start with X, we can traverse all through the path and we can come back to X. And similarly, there is another way to come back to X in the reverse direction using the inverse C. And this has correspondence with the reversibility of microscopic physical system that is implied by the laws of quantum mechanics. So this is the theorem Professor Kari has discussed about, and these are the corollaries from which we can get that for CA, injectivity property implies bijectivity as well as reversibility. So if a CA is injective, we can directly say that they will be reversible. But as I mentioned, for CA, whenever we are talking about bijective or injective function, we are talking about the global transition function. But in the definition Professor Dash has talked about, here it was a four tuple. So in that definition, there was no G available, only rule was there, local rule R. So we have to find an algorithm which can decide whether a CA is reversible or not based on this local rule R, because we will not be, by definition, we don't have G. So depending on R, we have to decide whether whether a CA is reversible or not. Now let us come back to reversibility of the simple system, that is the one-dimensional CA. So in case of one-dimensional CA, you can think about it is a array of cells, where if we think about the infinite lattice, it can continue in both sides as long as you can think about. So, and there are two classical algorithms available which were proposed by, first one is by Amoroso and Pat, which is in 1972, where they decided the reversibility of one-dimensional C using combinatorial method. Specifically, first one is surjectivity test using a tree, and then they form a table-like structure to decide the injectivity property. And then in 1991, Sachner proved the same thing using diffusion graph. So in this talk, we will be discussing about a method proposed by Sachner. Although I have said that reversibility is implied by injectivity, but normally sometimes surjective CAs which may not be reversible also, those CAs are also sometimes of interest to us. So reversibility test basically combines of two specific type of tests. One is surjective test, another one is injective test. So what is the problem of surjectivity? So we have to decide whether the global transition function G is surjective or not. Now, what is surjective? Surjective means we have to find a configuration that doesn't have a pre-image. Now, such a configuration is named that Garden of Eden configuration. So, we have to find whether a Garden of Eden configuration exists in the CA or not. If such Garden of Eden configuration exists, the CA is not surjective. Otherwise, it can be declared as surjective. But problem is Garden of Eden configuration is infinite configuration. So we normally look for the orphans, that is the finite pattern, which is not a pre-image, which doesn't have a pre-image. And Professor Curry also discussed about the balance property of orphans. Balance property means what? All symbols have equal share in the rule table. So if a CA is not, the rule of the CA is not balanced, then it is not surjective. This was the implication from Professor Curry's talk, that is surjectivity Pre-injectivity, no orphans, and balance property of orphan, those are equivalent properties. And similarly, the smaller class or subset of this CAs will be the injective or bijective or reversible CAs. So, how do we find that whether this balance property is violated or not? We can simply scan the rule table. So, I will show you an example. Suppose this is our table, this is our rule. In that case, you can see that in the neighborhood there are three states. So it is basically a three-state, three neighborhood C. But in the next state, you can see there is no two. No combination of neighborhood is there for which the next state value is 2. So what does it mean? This is a three neighborhood, three state CA, but symbol 2 is not the image of any three tuple under R. That means if we construct any configuration which has a 2 inside it, that cannot be that cannot have any pre-image. There is no configuration from which we can get that configuration. For example, we take the simplest one, that is all 2. This obviously has no pre-image because we are not getting any neighborhood combination from which we can generate 2. So this is a garden of Eden configuration, and also the balance property is violated. That means we can declare that this CA is not surjective. But what about if the balance property is satisfied? When then we will be deciding subjectivity? Suppose rule is balanced, then can you say it is surjective? For example, let us take this simple CA. Here we have only two states, so it is two-state, three neighborhood CA. Now here we can see that balance property is not violated. So if we have to check whether it is surjective or not, what we have to do? We have to find the predecessor of configuration and see if there exists any configuration which doesn't have a predecessor. Now we can take these arbitrary configurations, all 0, all 1, and then 0 with little bit 1. If you try yourself, you can see that for this all 0, the predecessor is all 0 itself. Similarly, for all 1, this will be the predecessor. But for this particular configuration, all 0 followed by a middle 1 and then all 0 again, there is no configuration from which we can get back to this. That means although this rule is balanced, it is not surjective. This will be one Garden of Eden configuration for this. But what will be the problem? We have infinitely many configurations because we are considering infinite CAs. So it is not possible to exhaustively check every configuration and find whether this configuration has a predecessor or not. So we have to find some other easier way. Now let us come back to the problem of injective. What is the idea? The idea will be, in the previous case for surjectivity, we were looking for some configuration which have no predecessor. Now what will be the problem of injectivity? Here we will be looking for some configuration which has more than one predecessor. If no such configuration exists, then we can declare that the CA is reversible. So for example, let us take the previous CA itself. Here we have seen already that for these two configurations, although I have taken finite, you can take infinite as well. So for these two configurations, there exists predecessor. We have already seen this thing. But what about the next configuration? If we just find the next configuration, what will be the next configuration? You can see that here in the rule table, all 0 corresponds to the next as 0, and all 1 also corresponds to the next as 0. That means for both this configuration, what we'll be getting? We'll be getting all 0 as the next state. So therefore all 0, there are two predecessors, all 0 and all 1. So that means this CA is not injective. Similar to the surjectivity problem, here also we have to exhaustively check each of the infinite configurations if we go by this process. So it is not practically possible. In Amorso-Pat's algorithm and Schaffner's algorithm, what they did, they proposed some method to ease this problem. We can understand that this is a non-trivial problem, so we need some algorithm which, based on the definition of the CA itself, can uh, tell you how to proceed to find this many-to-one mapping or the Garden of Eden configuration which doesn't have a predecessor. In case of Schaffner's algorithm, what he did was he developed a non-deterministic finite automata which will accept all strings over the alphabet using the Diffusion graph, and then decided reversibility in an algorithm which is quadratic time of the number of nodes in the. So what is Diffusion graph? Diffusion graph is, by definition, okay, let me show first the definition. So if you look at the definition, you can see there are two entities available for based on which we are developing the graph. So this graph is basically a directed graph which will represent overlap between all possible sequences of symbols. So if we take as number s and the set of symbols sigma, then number of vertices will be the size of the alphabet power of s, and number of edges will be all possible overlapping sequences, that is ax to xb, where x is sigma to the power s minus 1 and ab will be belonging to sigma. Now we can, this will be more clear if we look at example. So by definition itself, you can understand that this will be a Hamiltonian graph. So each vertex has in degree k and out degree k, where k is the size of the alphabet. Now let us take this graph. Okay, so in this graph, this is, here we are taking s equals to 2 with alphabet 0, 1. So how many number of vertices are possible? Sigma to the power s, that means 2 to the power 2, 4. 4 combinations we can think of with 0 and 1, that is 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 1. All these 4 combinations will be our vertices, and we can connect two vertices if there is an overlapping sequence between them. For example, if we take node 0, 0 and node 0, 1, there is an overlapping sequence 0, 0, 1. So there is a connectivity from 0, 0 to 0, 1. Similarly, for 0, 0 and 1, 0, from 0, 0 to 1, 0 we can't go because here overlapping sequence is not there. But from 1, 0 to 0, 0 we can go, because here this 0 is the part of the role played by this x. So 1, 0 to 0, 0, the overlapping sequence will be 1, 0, 0. So we can directly form an edge. Similarly, we can form the other edge. Total number of edges will be what? 2 to the power 3, that is 8 number of edges will be there. Similarly, we can find another graph. If we take here, this is over some strings, that is we are taking A, B and C as our alphabet, and S equals to 1. So if S equals to 1, that means we have 3 to the power 1, only 3 vertices, and then as it is only 1, here the x is actually empty. So all possible combinations are there and all possible edges will be there. We have 3, yeah. So we are connecting all possible edges here. C to B, B to C, all edges we are connecting. Now, although in CA we will not be using this alphabet as ABC, we will be using this kind of structure where alphabet will be defined over some numbers. Now let us go to the definition of CA using, or representation of CA rather, using Diffusion graph. For one-dimensional CA, we have the function G, global transition function G, and neighborhood, where neighborhood will be As you have already seen, it is the overlapping window of m consecutive integers if m is the number of neighbors of the CN, and the local rule is a function r from s to the power n to s. So what will be the division graph associated with this cellular automata? This division graph will have m minus 1 number of symbols as s, and alphabet will be same as the state. So each edge will be, here we will be leveling each edge with the next state function, that is the rule. How do we do that? Let us take this rule ECF 51. Here I am using RMT. This RMT means nothing but the combination of neighborhood states with respect to the rule. So instead of writing this combination of neighborhood states as that, we are naming it as rule mean term of RMT. So here we were using the same graph in the previous example, that is over where S is 2 and this sigma is 0, 1. So here, instead of labeling this age with simply 0, 0, 1, because that is from the definition of graph itself, we know that this age, if there is a age from 0, 0 to 0, 1, that age will represent 0, 0, 1. Now for 0, 0, 1, what this rule says, 0, 0, 1 next state is 1. So we are labeling this age with 1. Similarly for say 0, 0, 0, the next function for rule 51, the next state is 1. So we are labeling this with 1. So there, in this way we can label each of the edges. So each of the edges will be labeled by what? The next state values from the rule itself. So what we can get out of it? That means we can now find the configurations. How do we find the configurations? Configurations will be traversing through the edges. If we find one cycle through the edges, that cycle will represent one configuration of the CA, and how can we find the next configuration of it? The next configuration will be the next value, that is the level of the edges. For example, so in short, this will contain full information about the local rule of the C. So by writing this stuff, we can know what properties are followed by the rule of the CA. For example, how do we find the configuration? Let's take this configuration 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0. How do we find it? 0, 0, 0. So first two are 0, 0. We have to start with this node 0, 0. Then we can look through it. We can then come back to 0, 0, 0. Then we just shift it. So next will be 0, 0, 1. 0, 0, 1 means this edge. So we have to go towards this. Then 0, 1, 1. 0, 1, 1 means this edge. We have to go through this. Then 1, 1, 0. 1, 1, 0 means this edge. Similarly, then again 1, 0, 0. 1, 0, 0 means this edge. And then again 0, 0, 0 means again we look here. So this is one configuration. What will be the next configuration for it? We just see the next the level of the edges that we have already marked using our rule. So our next configuration will be simply 1, 1, 1. Now, how do we do the injectivity test? For injectivity test, you have to find for each configuration the next configuration. If there exists one configuration, there exists one configuration with two predecessors, or rather, if there exists two configurations with same successor, we can say that C is reversible. C is irreversible. If no such configuration exists, then the C is declared reversible. So, but divergent graph will give you an easy way. You can you might be thinking like we have to traverse through the all these cycles again and again, but that is not the way. There is another way which is far more easier to check, which is given by the pair graph or product graph construction of division graph. What is that? That is nothing but you just think of the Cartesian product of all the nodes of the division graph, and you join them together, and there will be only the edges here will be important. There will be an edge. If so, this edge will be existing if both the u dash v dash is the graph, is the node of the product graph. This has for both u v and u dash v dash, we have the same label A. That means in the rule for both the nodes, both the edges u and v, the overlapping sequence between u and v, that edge, and u dash v dash, that edge, was having same label A by the rule. So what it signifies? It signifies we are developing one automata where all possible uh, varieties that can be produced by the rule, that is going to be explored. Now we are specifically designing this graph such that we can find the different configurations for which there will be same next configuration. That's why we are putting only those levels, only those edges where they have the same level A. This will be more clear if we just look at it. For example, this is the product, this is the division graph for rule 110, and if we develop the product graph, how does it look? First is here we are exploring all possible nodes. So here we had 4 nodes, so 4 square means 16 nodes will be there. All possible 16 nodes we have developed first. Now what we do for 0 0 0 0, if both are same, that means this will be, there will be no change inside it. It will be just an isomorphic copy of this division graph. But when change will happen, if we take 0 0 1 1. So for 0 0, what was the next? 0 0 1 1. Then here say we are taking 0 1 1 0. So 0 0 to 0 1, that is 0 0 1. 0 0 1 had, what was that? That was 1. Again 1 1 0. 1 1 0 was also having 1. So we can draw one edge from 0 0 1 1 to 0 1 1 0. So what does it mean? Here, any sequence of edges, this will represent part of 2 configurations. That is 2 sub-configurations. Just let us take this path, a sequence of edge, say 0 0 1 1, then 0 1 1 0, then 1 1 0 1, this node, and then 1 0 1 0, this node. So here we are taking this 0 0 1 1, 0 0 1 1 0, 1 1 0 1, 1 0 1 0. This is one path in this pair graph. But what does it mean? We can get 2 configurations, just like using the way to find configuration in division graph. Will be taking one path through the upper sub part of the node, that is 0 0 1. Then again 0 1 1 means 0 0 1 1 0. So this will be one part. This first part, if we take the first part, that this will give you 0 0 1 1 0. Similarly, if we take the lower part, what this will give? 1 1 0 1, then again 0. So these are the 2 sub configurations for which we are getting the same next state values. So here the next state value for this sub configuration will be what? 1 1 1. See, if we are here, we are using 3 neighborhood structures. So obviously, if we take a sub configuration of length 5, we can only decide about the next sub configuration of length 3. Now what else we can get from this? Now let us take a bi-infinite path. Bi-infinite path is means what? We are developing, we are checking about the cycles in this graph. If we take any cycle in this graph, this will be a bi-infinite path. Now any cycle in this graph means again we can develop two configurations. Here we are not talking about sub configuration, rather configurations, because it is a complete path. Now any bi-infinite path in this graph, this will signify two configurations x and y, such that the next configuration of both the configurations are same, and it is z, which can be derived from the levels of these edges. For example, if we just extend the previous path to make it complete, we can start from this 0 1 1 0 1 0 1, then 1 0 1 0, no, 0 1 0 1, then 1 0 1 1, then 0 0 1 1, 0 1 1 0, 1 1 0 1, then 1 0 1 0, again 0 1 1 1. So 0 1 0 1. So this is the path we are talking about right now. This is a cycle. So it is a bi-infinite path. This bi-infinite path, what will be the two configurations for it? If the two configurations you can find by say 0 1 0, 0 1 1, then again 0. So this is one periodic configuration 0 1 0 0 1 1. Another periodic configuration will be what? 0 1 1 1 1 0 1. So this is the another periodic configuration. These two periodic configurations you have already seen what is periodic configuration. That means the same part will be repeating in the in an infinite number of times. So these two periodic configurations can be represented by this one cycle of this pair graph, and for these periodic configurations we can get the same next configuration. And this next configuration from the next for this next configuration, the previous configuration you can identify by using these two periodic configuration. Now what is the injectivity property? That means we should not get any two different configuration which has the same next configuration. That means this periodic configuration should not be different. This should be equal. If they are not equal, then we can declare that the series is not equal. Obviously, for our graph, we have seen that these are two different periodic configurations. So these two configurations has the same image 1 0 1 1 1 1 that we can get from the level of these edges, and this ray is not injected. So this is the significance of the pair graph. Now this pair graph is having 16 number of nodes. If it is only a two-state, three-neighborhood CA, now the question might come that can we reduce the number of nodes? Because we can see that there are too many nodes which are just symmetric to each other. So might be we can think of just reducing the number of nodes by merging them. So first we can see that this part, this is the strongly connected component of this graph, and this part is just an isomorphic copy of this original Lagrangian graph. So we define this part as delta. Delta is the set of diagonal vertices, and it has path between any pair of two vertices. As the graph is originally Hamiltonian, you can find path through any of the vertices, and it is an isomorphic copy, as I already said. So from while we reduce the number of nodes in the graph, we'll just merge everything of this strongly connected component together and represent it simply as a delta. There are some other ways to merge or to now just reduce the number of nodes. One is just merging the symmetrical entries. For example, if we have two nodes, UV and VU, that means they are mirror images of each other. So for these two nodes, we were getting UV, VU and VU, UV in the pair graph. Now we can merge these two together in a single node. Maybe we are taking UV, and not the next one, or maybe the vice versa. Also, we can understand that if we are talking about cycles which are only inside this delta, that means here inside delta that was simply an isomorphic copy of the original Euclidean graph, and there is no difference between the two configuration that we are getting out of the bi-infinite path. So those cycles will not help us to decide about the reversibility problem, because in reversibility problem we are interested to find the many to one mapping, so that will not give you many to one. That means we can simply merge all this into delta, and we can be happy with that. So this graph can be merged into a simpler form of this graph, where the whole set of these four nodes are merged into delta, and then the isomorphic copies are also merged together. So this is the reduced pair graph or reduced product graph. Now, how we decide reversibility out of this reduced graph? So any bi-infinite path that uses only the diagonal vertices, this will not provide any two different configuration with same image, because only the diagonal vertices will also only inside delta. For example, if we think of any path through this, say 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0. So here, whatever way we take, this will not give you any two different configuration with the same image. So this is not of interest to us. That means we are interested to find path or cycle which contains at least one node outside of delta. If we get at least one node outside of delta, that means that node will be having two different parts which are not equivalent to each other, just like see here 1 0 and 1 1, or maybe 1 1 0 1. These are different, so at least on this part the bi-infinite configuration will differ. So our interest will be to find the path that contain at least one vertex outside of delta. Injectivity can be decided by following that path. So one-dimensional CA is not injective if and only if its product graph has a cycle. Cycle means a bi-infinite path that contains a node outside of delta. That means outside of delta, as I already said, this will imply that two configurations exist with the same image. So many to one mapping exists. Similarly, it will be declared injective if and only if there is no cycle in its reduced pair graph. If we don't get any such cycle in the graph, we can declare that okay, our CA doesn't have any many to one mapping and it is injective. Now, the graph reduced pair graph is relatively very simple. So, using any graph searching algorithm, we can determine this whether this cycle exists or not, and it will be linear to the side of the reduced graph. So we can get this theorem that for 1D CA reversibility is decidable in quadratic time. Now, if we are interested only about surjectivity, that also can be decided by using this reduced product graph. How do we do that? Surjectivity of CA. Here, what we do is, for one-dimensional CA, this is not surjective if and only if the product graph has a cycle that contains a node of delta and a node outside of delta. What does it mean? So here for surjectivity, we are not um, considering only the bi-infinite path. We are specifically interested with only those paths where it is like for injectivity, we were happy with finding one cycle which can be totally outside of delta. But for surjectivity, we are interested only on the cycle that contains a node inside of delta as well as a node outside of delta. What does it mean? That means we can, if we start with a node inside of delta and then go through some node which is outside of delta and then come back, that means at least some part of that bi-infinite configuration are same, and only at a finite number of places that bi-infinite configuration, those two bi-infinite configuration will be differing. The number of places will be corresponding to the number of edges outside delta from which we are traversing. So, if you recall Professor Curry's lecture, those configurations has a specific name. Those are called asymptotic configurations. And those asymptotic configurations means what? There are only finitely many places for which these configurations are differing, and for the other configurations, they are exactly same. And if these configurations are mapping to the same configuration, that means the CA is not pre-injected. And from the previous slides, I have shown you that pre-injectivity signifies that it is not surjective. This is the Garden of Eden theorem. So, if we find some such a cycle, that means it will not be pre-injected. And if we don't have such a cycle, then we can say it is surjective. So this condition, it is also similar to the reversibility condition. We can decide whether this our graph has such a cycle or not in time linear to the size of the graph. So again, we can find a theorem that for 1D CA, surjectivity is decidable in quadratic time. So let us take the example. This was the product graph for rule 110, and we derived the reduced pair graph. So our first condition was, if we have a cycle in which is outside this delta. So a cycle which can contain any node outside of delta, or maybe all nodes outside the delta. If we get a cycle, that means the CA is not injected. Here you can see that we have a cycle like this, which is starting at delta and then going through these paths and saying coming back to this. So here, at least for the bi-infinite configuration, these parts are different. It has cycled through delta. If suppose instead of this delta, if say this delta was disconnected, and our path was like from this node to this node, although this is not possible, but maybe say we are for this graph it is not possible. Maybe say hypothetically we think of that we are getting one graph for which this delta is disconnected, but this 1011 and 1101, there is one edge from 1101 to 1011. In that case, what we could have decided that at least for this part we have a cycle. So if there exists any cycle which is outside of delta, we can say that this CA is not injective, because that will represent two bi-infinite configurations which are different, having same mixed configuration. So it is not injective. Now here for this particular rule, we are seeing that we here getting one by infinite path which is which contain at least one node outside of delta. Actually, here we are seeing three nodes outside of delta. So this is the surjectivity test. So surjectivity test says that if we get such a cycle, that means the CA will not be surjective because here we can this CA is violating the pre-injectivity condition. So we can decide this CA is neither injective nor surjective. So it is obviously not reversible, it is an irreversible CA. But if we take any other CA where even if there is this say this cycle was not there, then we can say that this is surjective CA. But here the self loop is there. Self loop is there means here for this particular node we will be getting some kind of cycle where it will be different. So we can say that that will not be injected. Just take another example. This is rule 51. Rule 51 for this we can develop similarly the product graph. Here also we will be having 16 nodes. Now we can reduce it. We can reduce in this way. We can see that here for this particular graph there is no cycle which is containing any node outside of delta. Not outside of delta, not with any node containing only the nodes are not with only the nodes containing outside of delta and not a cycle which is containing one node outside of delta and the remaining nodes of delta. Now no cycle is there in this graph. If there is no cycle, that means you can directly declare that the CA is reversible. So it is both injective and surjective and it is a reversible CA. Now, so far we have discussed about the reversibility problem considering the infinite configurations, that is the infinite CA. For the infinite CAs, there are mainly three classes of reversibility problems. Professor Kari was already discussing about this in the last class. So I will just list it out. What is the first problem? First problem is when the global transition function G is injective on the set of all infinite configurations. So we are considering all infinite configuration and the global transition function G we are considering, that is the classical definition of GA, which is injective on the set of all infinite configuration. This we name as case 1. Now we can take GP. GP is the periodic infinite configuration. So we define the global transition function over the set of all periodic infinite configuration and then we decide the reversibility for such global transition function. This we name as case 2. Now there is another class of reversibility for infinite CA, that is when we restrict our global transition function over the finite configurations. So finite configuration means there will be equation states. So if we take all finite configurations of length n for any n and define global transition function GF over that, then reversibility of this GF, this we define as case 3. This is for infinite CA. But if you are going to implement your CA for some real applications, you will be needing finite CA. So finite CA means you will be having some boundaries, some fixed number of cells will be there. So for that, global transition function is defined over all finite configurations of length n for a particular n, because here our n is fixed. We are defining the CA over a limited number of cells and trying to find whether our global transition function Gn over that fixed size n is injective or not. That we call as case 4 CAs. So there are four cases of reversibility. Now for the first three cases, all three cases are defined over infinite CA, whereas case 4 is defined over finite CA. Now this image is already, it might be known to you if you have attended last class. Then here you can see that the first three cases of reversibility, they are related with each other if we talk about reversibility of one-dimensional CA. For example, if we see that if we talk about case 1 CS, that is infinite over infinite configuration. So if G is injective, we can get GF is surjective and GF is also injective. Now, if GF is injective, from where there is this bidirectional relation with G being surjective. And there is another relation with GP and G. If G is defined over the periodic configuration and it is injective, then G is also injective and vice versa. So this is the relation between injectivity and surjectivity properties of one-dimensional CAs, where we are talking about infinite configurations. But case 4 is different from them. So how do we decide the case 4 CAs? So reversibility of finite CA, that is a case 4 CAs. How do we decide? Now we don't have to consider the bi-infinite configurations. We can be happy with the finite configurations only. Finite configurations means if it is n, there is only, say, if it is number of state is d, then d to the power n number of configurations are there. So this is by definition, this is also finite number. So what we can do? We can again look for the Diffusion graph. In Diffusion graph, we can look for the many to one mapping. Here we have to find for any specific n, we have to find all cycles of that length n, and if for those cycles, if we just find the next configuration and just we list out all configuration and their next configuration, and we see that there is no many-to-one mapping, we can declare that the CA is reversible. But what will be the problem here? We have to traverse through the graph again and again for each of the configuration. Now that means we have to find all possible uh, configurations of length n by traversing all possible cycles of that particular n. Then we have to enlist them. We have to see whether there is many-to-one mapping or not. So this is not the wise way. Can we devise a better solution? Obviously, yes. That is what we will be discussing in the next talk, the reachability tree. Okay, I'm stopping this.
Thank you.
If you have any question, I'm just open to question. Okay, I'll just share also.
Kamalika, I have one question. So you are talking about four cases, right? Case one, case two, case three, and case four. And what you have said that the case one, two, three is somehow related. I mean, so there are some relation. So again, so case four, the finite case. So what's the specialty in it, right? I was saying something different, and there is you didn't put any comment on that one. What is specialty in case of case four?
Why will be interested in case
And the
4?
last one, yeah, what is the specialty in case four? It's a finite case, okay?
Yeah.
Again, you are using diffusion graph, etc. What is the specialty in case four?
Okay. Speciality means if why will be interested in this finite CA's reversibility? Why that is
Okay,
your
so there is no. My question is, you have said is different. Uh, you know, Can you tell me one property of case 4 which is the present in case of 1 or 2 or 3? So here you have say that case 1, 2, and 3 they are equivalent. But you are considering case 4 is a completely different case, different case, right? So is there a special reason?
Okay. For case 4 is specifically for finite CAs. Finite CA will be interest to any real life application, just like you can think of maybe a random number generator. So here, if you are going to develop some reversible system for random number generator, then also you'll be interested in studying reversibility of finite cases, where your aim is dependent upon the number of cells or the size of your PRNG. So that is one such application where reversibility of say finite CA will be of interest. And about difference, maybe for finite CA, surjectivity and injectivity property both will be same, because here if you find a CA is not surjective or CA is surjective, for finite CA it will imply that it is also injective. That is not a property of infinite CA. Surjectivity doesn't imply injectivity in general.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Right. 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 Thank you. So there's another question. So, you discussed here. You talked about the diffusion graph, and you propose algorithm. I mean, the algorithm discussed that is based on diffusion graph. So you are talking about Amoroso pair algorithm. Okay. Complexity-wise, which one should be preferred? Suppose if I want to do say sensitivity test. Okay, complexity-wise, which one should be preferred? I mean, the Amoroso pair algorithm or diffusion graph-based method, subclass method.
Complexity wise, for surjectivity test, Amorso pairs algorithm will be, I feel it will be better, because there they will be developing a tree-like structure, and if there is just and yeah, if there is some one configuration which is not having a pre-image, it will be identified in the previous stage only. You don't have to develop the complete tree to identify it. So yeah, so complexity-wise surjectivity test, if it is not surjective specifically, then we will be identifying that through Amorso pairs algorithm in better time. Complexity-wise, it will be
And for
super.
the
Yes.
the other test, injectivity test.
Injectivity test is more complex in Amorso pairs algorithm. So I guess injectivity test will be simpler if we look for De Bruijn graph.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more question. So, any other
Uh,
question?
um, uh, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Uh, Thank you for this wonderful talk, first of all. Uh, uh, Division graph provide a way to describe the configuration of a CA, and also we can get the predecessor of the of any particular configuration. And also there is present like a transition function for which we can get the next configuration of a particular configuration. So now my question is, what are the advantage of the diffusion graph comparing to the configuration transition function?
Configuration transition function.
That means we can get the next configuration using the transition function. So therefore, what are the
Okay. Okay. This transition diagram you are talking about, right?
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, the transition diagram is specifically designed for finite CA. If it is infinite CA, you can't draw the transition diagram, because there you have infinitely many configurations. Obviously,
Yes.
your transition diagram will not work there. So for infinite case, obviously you can't draw that. Comparison doesn't arise itself. But for finite case, okay, if you know the transition diagram, then might be uh, this might be helpful, but Dupuytren graph is specifically designed for infinite CA. We are using that Dupuytren graph for finite CA. That in that case, its property will not be totally uh, of uh, of relevance. So in that case, you might think of like, okay, instead of going again and again, using division graph, you can directly one by one traversal you can find the configuration transition diagram, and from for next on checking onwards we can just look into the configuration transition diagram only. But that is specifically for finite case. So we have to remember that it is not applicable for infinite case.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question. This is, I think, basic question. Uh, Diffusion graph is equal to is the equation is equal to the non-deterministic finite automata.
Diffusion graph is not equal to the non-deterministic finite automata. Diffusion graph, from diffusion graph itself, we are drawing the pair graph.
Pair
For the
graph.
pair graph, it is actually a non-deterministic automata that you can think of.
Okay, thank you.
Most welcome.
Yeah.
Is
Any
there
more
any
question? Chukun, are you here?
Yes, I'm available. So, I think there is no more question. Kamulika, you can search in the chat box also. No, not present. So we will be back for the again for the same topic. She will be continue from 12. So we are waiting for her next part actually. And thanks again, Kamulika, for your nice talk. So all of us actually waiting for the remaining part. So we will be back by 12. So we are ending the session.
Okay, thank you.